how you doing? Hopefully you're doing well.
Hey pal, everything's fine, thanks. How about you?
I'm doing well, and that's good. You ready to do the interview? I understand if not and you want to move it to a later date.
No problem, let's do it.
Okay, I'll start with one of the simple questions and then we can work our way up. What got you interested in game development?
It's pretty simple. I grew up playing video games on an old SNES, loving every minute of it. When I was a kid, I remember inventing my own games with paint, so I can't pinpoint exactly when it happened, but I always enjoy the process of creation. When I was 13, I discovered GameMaker 5 and started toying with it, but only in 2012 I began creating fully fledged games, albeit pretty small.
That sounds like it must have been fun. Honestly, I've been wanting to get into game development for a while myself too, but it's hard to know where to start. Sounds like it must have been nice though. Especially with how now that passion for making games and painting has evolved to what you do nowadays. It's always nice to do something you enjoy and to see how far you've come since you first started.
I think that everyone needs to understand how and what they want to make. It's a long process, but one that can be conquered by trying out everything the world has to offer, until they find what they're looking for, of course. In my case, I think it was the GameMaker software, and I spent a lot of time on other stuff before understanding that, yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, that makes sense. You can't really make something without knowing both how to make that something and what you want that something to be. Otherwise, you just have no clue what you're even doing. Like trying to solve a puzzle made out of water. I have no idea why that's the metaphor I came up with for that, but it is.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, and probably very difficult too. For the next question, what's your personal favourite part of game development? I can imagine it's really nice to see it all come together after working on a game for a while, and or seeing everyone's thoughts on it when it's done. I'm sure those are both really nice parts of game development.
I really love the process of making. I always thought that I was meant to make design, but after years of development, I can totally say that I'm not very good at it. So what I like the most is just making the game. Development is the game in itself, and I find the feel of things coming together to be ecstatic. There are some aspects that I like more than others, but in the end I find myself enjoying everything I have to make. Also, the aspects I like the most changes from game to game.
That sounds fun, and yeah, I can imagine so. Since not all games are made the same way, since some games are so different from each other. Like 3D games versus 2D games. They're very different, so they'd have their own methods of getting made, and thus both be very different to make.
True, for example, I generally hate making level design for platformers because I'm bad at it, but I enjoyed every single moment of level design while making Memorial Pillage, and I also love making maps for IMSCARED.
I can imagine. Platformers you have to take a lot into consideration, like the physics when making the levels. Gotta make sure everything isn't too far that you can't get through, but also not too close that it's easy to beat and thus not fun.
The real hustle is to make them fun to play through the entire levels.
That too.
There's a fine line between fun and tedious.
Yep. That goes for anything creative, really. And anything in general. Sometimes you've got to push through some tediousness to get back to the fun, though.
I think you sometimes need to know how to use tediousness as an advantage.
Yep. Building off that last question, what has been your favourite game to make?
I think it's a tie between IMSCARED and Memorial Pillage, although I really enjoyed making my very first game, One Day the World. Thinking of it, I have fond memories of all my first year of game dev.
I can understand that. I look back fondly on a lot of my past art too that I've drawn. Guess nostalgia can play a heavy part in that too.
I think it's not just about the nostalgia. Simply put, I was discovering something that I could do for the first time and found that really amusing.
That's true. The learning experience is definitely part of that. Having fun figuring out how to make stuff work and then learning that is definitely something very memorable. And isn't something you can easily relive without trying to start something brand new. Anyway, what's been your favourite game in general you've ever played?
I really can't choose between Mega Man X, Silent Hill on the PSX, and Tomb Raider on the PSX. These are the games that helped shape me and my vision when I was a kid.
I can tell. Those are all classics, and I can definitely see how some of them I can tell. Those are all classics, and I can definitely see how some of them influenced your games. Honestly, with there being a VR Resident Evil 4, I hope at some point they make a VR Silent Hill port, because that would be a true nightmare to experience. In a good way.
I personally think that Silent Hill works the best within its own limits, and that's why I can't let my guard down whenever its remake will eventually come out, but there's probably a bit of nostalgia talking here.
That's true. Can't be the original. But it is something be a cool way to relive the game in a new way.
That's for sure. I'm really curious about the new Silent Hill 2 that's coming out. Let's cross our fingers.
Hopefully it turns out well. We'll have to wait and see. What do you think you'd be doing if you weren't a game dev?
I'd be making pizza. I'm serious, I love cooking and I like pizza, so that sounds fun. But I really can't say. Oh, before turning to game dev, I really enjoy the process of making videos, so I probably could have done that.
Somewhere in the multiverse, there's a timeline where you have a YouTube channel where you make pizza.
Nah, I would make short horror movies in my pizzeria at midnight.
Sounds like fun.
You always need to include horror media while thinking about my possibilities.
True. Funny thing is, one of the community questions Astra from the IMSCARED Discord server wanted me to ask was your favourite pizza topping.
Nice. I'll be waiting.
We'll get there eventually. What are some of your other big inspirations in general, other than Silent Man? Silent Man? Silent Man. We'll get there eventually. What are some of your other big inspirations in general, other than Silent Hill, Mega Man X, and Tomb Raider?
If we're talking about games, then Terry Kavanagh and their works are one for sure. I also love horror movies. I like to watch some ghost work or some found footage horror when I'm ready to recharge a bit. I also found out recently that I really like reading some horror books, with House of Leaves being my favorite at the moment, and I find those to be really inspiring for what I make. Oh, and I also find strength in managing to scare my fiance with one of my games, which sounds impossible if you consider that I'm trying to do that since 2012, to no avail.
That would sound fun. And I'm sure you'll scare us someday. Just gotta keep trying. What's your favourite horror movie / horror movie series? I'm personally a big fan of Child's Play franchise myself.
Oh, I loved Child's Play 2 when I was a kid. I found Dolls to be really scary, although I enjoyed watching Child's Play 3 and laughing about it for its silliness. As for my favorite, it's just like with games. I don't have a favorite one, but I always loved The Exorcist and recently fell in love with Lake Mungo, Hereditary, and Caveat. There are probably more, but these are the ones that immediately come to mind when thinking about it.
Yeah, me too. The fun collectible I have is a life-sized prop of Child's Play 1 Chucky. It's very cool to have, since Child's Play had a huge impact on me when I was younger.
I can't see why is that. It's really fun. Old slasher movies have a special flavor to them. Like, for example, I really liked A Nightmare on Elm Street when I was little.
Same. Horror is a great medium for stories, and just fun in general.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What's the trickiest problem you've had to solve while working on a game?
My main problem is that Game Maker is not meant to do 3D. I mean, it can do that, but it's not its thing. I'm not a very skilled programmer, so it's really hard to make 3D games within this tool's limits. I could move to a different engine, but as I told you before, I really found my dimension on this thing. I tried to make games with other engines such as Unity, and also made a big one with some friends. It's called Mirror Layers, and it came out last year. And I will surely try again, but Game Maker is my happy islet. So yeah, making 3D stuff is the trickiest problem of all, even more than making weird fourth wall breaking things.
Yeah, sounds like it. I am planning to play Mirror Layers at some point, likely as a stream after I'm finished with the retrospective on the release of the videos. So anyone could pop in and share their any thoughts or questions related to that or the game, along with another stream playing your other games too as well. Those streams are definitely going to be fun. But while it may be hard to make 3D stuff in Game Maker, it's definitely worth it since it has its own style and vibe.
That exactly. Just as I was saying with Silent Hill, I think you can find personality in limits.
Yeah.
Limitations bring weird, unexpected ideas, and that's what's fun.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a saying somewhere that's limitations being more freedom, or something like that. Now I'm creating that saying now. Mind is a strange thing sometimes. But you get what I mean, I'm sure. Limits can bring more creativity in how you work around those limits to create what you want to make.
Exactly.
Yeah. Sometimes when you're looking at something without too much, if any, limitations, you end up getting creative block because you have so many options that you just don't know what to do.
That's exactly what happened while developing Mirror Layers.
So having limits for what you can do can be helpful since it gives you options. Creative block is never fun. I've had a writer's block for ages. I enjoy writing a lot of horror stories, but I haven't had any proper ideas for ages.
You'll get to that, don't worry. We all do eventually.
Yeah, you never know when an idea can strike. Could be a dream, could be a doodle, random thought, or seeing something on a walk. Anything can spark an idea.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Speaking of writing, do you have a favourite book / novel / story?
As I've told you before, that is House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. I also enjoyed reading the Exorcist novel lately.
Fair. I've heard a lot of good things about House of Leaves.
I think that House manages to capture my love for unconventional things and the concept of architecture in space, and also love for stuff that doesn't exist but still does.
That's fair. I've also heard it's very good at messing with the reader.
It does a lot of fun stuff, yeah.
I'll have to read it at some point.
I really suggest you to do so, it's great.
I definitely will! Now let's get to some of the more I'm Scared focused questions now. What inspired you to make I'm Scared back in 2012?
My fear of glitches in video games is certainly one of the biggest inspirations. I always fear being struck by glitches in games, and I vividly remember the very first time I got scared by a glitch. There's a way to clone Pokemons in Pokemon Gold and Silver on the Game Boy, but the first time I tried doing that within Crystal version, my monster glitched, showing strings and numbers that didn't make any sense. I immediately threw the handheld on the table, looking at it from a distance, scared by something that felt alive and malicious. I wanted to reproduce that feeling by making a cursed game, something that you would download for fun, something that would break while playing, only to find yourself having a strange folder on your desktop.
I'd say you definitely succeeded in trying to capture that feeling of something within the game being alive.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Honestly, I hadn't seen anything attempt that until I'm Scared, and I haven't really seen anything else capture it to the same extent I'm Scared has. It has certainly left an impact on me and many others. Out of curiosity, if you couldn't have called it I'm Scared, what other possible names would you have called the game?
I really don't know. I decided on the game's name just as I was shaping the antagonist, so it all came out naturally.
Makes sense. I can't picture it with any other name either. I'm Scared fits it perfectly. Now, what sparked you to return to I'm Scared and do more of it in 2022, other than the 10th anniversary?
I made IMSCARED 2016 to give the game some closure. I really like how the game ends, and I never wanted to alter that story. The thing is, I really love making IMSCARED. It's fun to create areas, come up with scares, and simply getting myself to its obtuse nonsense. Also, I was, and still am, amazed by the fans' response to the game. It's something that I've never managed to recreate with any of the other games, and even before the 2020 edition, players still ask for more. For a lot of time, I refused to do any more with it, ignoring the urge to do that. And I managed to do it until the day an idea struck me. IMSCARED 2022 was simply meant to be a quality update that would fix many issues the old game had, issues that I couldn't fix anymore because of the project being old and made on a different version of GameMaker. But I really loved the idea that I had, and that is why I've decided to do more. I really want to make a profitable entry.
I'm sure the idea will be worth the wait to find out what it is. What do you think will be the biggest challenge with the I'm Scared ports?
Fourth wall breaks. The good thing in making a computer game is that you're not really restricted to doing weird stuff such as creating files on the system for the player to see. With phones and consoles, the story is different, since there's a user experience that needs to be respected in order to upload your software on their stores.
That's very true. Making a virtual desktop of the game itself would lose some of the charm and realism, because then it wouldn't be as immersive that it's happening on the player's device. Console players would likely have to have that though, or completely unique ways of breaking the fourth wall and messing with the player.
It would totally lose it. The thing with IMSCARED is not that the game is a computer entity, it's that the curse is possessing your system.
Yeah.
That's why I can't simply port the game as it is. It needs to be reshaped a bit.
Yeah. Likely with stuff related to each specific console to have the immersion. To feel like the curse is really happening to that console.
That's the plan.
Aside from that, I assume you don't plan to have specific exclusive content for consoles, so people don't feel like they're missing out by not having specific console.
The only exclusive content would be related to the fourth wall breaks, those being different on every system for obvious reasons.
Sounds good. Assume if anything else changed, it'd be dialogue from Restorer if she was in the ports and had more dialogue. Mentioning being in a port.
Who's the Restorer? She'll probably have something different to say based on the console. I hope she knows what she's doing, cause I don't.
Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Whenever you make a character for a game, do you do concept art for them first, or do you just go straight to making them for the game? And if you do make specific concept art for them, is there any concept art of Whiteface and or her? Additionally, were there any specific inspirations for them design-wise? Same goes for if there's any concept arts for Restorer and or Castle Kid.
It depends, really. I often have a clear picture of my characters because they're always pretty simple. They do get some changes to development sometimes, but I generally like doing stuff just as I envisioned it while making. IMSCARED characters were born almost as you see them now. I do have some old stuff in my old drive, but searching for those right now would be a very long scavenger hunt. I also had the very first drawing of the Restorer, but I recently moved out, so searching for that would need another scavenger hunt.
Fair. Though any old designs would certainly be interesting to see and to get a grasp of how they evolved into how we see them now.
I do have our very first digital rendition though. Want to give that a look?
Oh sure, that'd be cool to see.
This will also confirm a theory you had, so have fun I suppose.
Whoa, it is a white face pin! That is very cool.
Haha, thanks.
You're welcome! Were there any specific inspirations for their designs? Whiteface, her, and Restorer?
Whiteface design is inspired by my fear of pale, eyeless figures that could peer at you from the dark. As for her, I really can't recollect what brought me to have it that way, but I'm pretty sure I wanted a figure that could be perceived as malicious yet beautiful. I really wanted to see her under a calm and dark reign. As for the Restorer, my ideas were silly, like a tour guide, but also dislikable.
That's good to know. And I'm pretty sure you succeeded with all of those. Minus Restorer being dislikable. I think everyone likes her.
And I genuinely didn't expect that. I really like her, but I thought players would perceive her as an unwelcome intruder.
Certainly. But it seems like she was more welcome than you expected.
And that is awesome.
Definitely.
Not as planned, but still awesome.
It's one of the few things that can be seen as good that it failed.
There's still time.
We'll have to wait and see.
But yeah, I hope players will like her more when the time will come.
On the topic of concept art and stuff like that, was there ever anything in IMSCARED that got scrapped during development? Levels, maps, sprites, textures, events, that sort of thing? I mean, I know from the Oculus Kickstarter there was the idea of some maps made by people that donated, including some portraits of them in the game, but that didn't get fully funded. If IMSCARED as we know it now. But was there anything else that got cut out? I know there's some unused map names and stuff within files that the peepers have found when peeping into the files.
Indiegogo aside, which sadly never got to happen, there's a lot of stuff that got scrapped. Also, some of it was made just on paper and never even got to the project. As you're saying, there's some super secret rooms that weren't meant to be seen. Who knows what's their purpose?
Do you think you'll ever revisit some of them? Or just keep them a secret as there is a fun bonus for one of the anniversaries?
I can just say that they're there for a reason.
Since I'm sure a lot of people would love to know some of the secret scrapped stuff that they never got to see. One of my favourite parts of games is seeing how they evolved into what they are now. I love watching videos about development of games and sharing better content ideas. It's interesting to learn more about them.
I'm sorry, but can I ask for a small coffee break?
Sure, go ahead.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Here I am, sorry for the delay. Where were we?
Well, we were here, I'm pretty sure. Oh, also, I was just looking at your Twitter and found these.
Oh yeah, these are the very first iterations of Whiteface and her. The her drawing was made after the 2016 edition though.
Guess you don't have to go digging for them then. They are very cool. It's nice to see how their designs came to be, even if they haven't changed much. Still cool nonetheless. Guess the only concept art you'd have to go searching for would be the first Restorer one, unless there's more whip stuff of her and Whiteface, but that's not necessary for now. It's nice to see how they exist though.
I'll search for them these days if you want to, and send them later.
Sure, you don't have to if you don't want to.
As for the last one, I do have some scrapped content. For example, in the beginning, Bury Her should have been a standalone game and not an IMSCARED update.
Oh? That's interesting. So, her initially had no tie to Whiteface then? What inspired you to make it part of IMSCARED?
Yeah, she initially was a different character, but as I was making Bury Her, I found that I was making something really similar to IMSCARED in concept, and that's why I decided to merge the two things. Back then, my personal challenge was to find a way to merge the two, and that's what led me to Workshop Edition. I often come up with stuff as soon as I'm making them, and the relation between Whiteface and her came as it is now naturally.
That's very interesting.
Here's a short clip from that scrapped Bury Her project.
I see the ever famous painting is there.
As you can see, there's a lot of stuff that later found its way into IMSCARED.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Some players have also decompiled the old Workshop Edition, finding some unused/scrapped ideas that I totally forgot until then.
Part of me wonders if there's still any playable beta builds of that original version.
There's nothing really playable, I'm afraid.
Fair. Still really cool to see the footage of how it was, though. I have 2 more normal questions before we get to the community questions. First off, are there any secrets in IMSCARED that haven't been discovered yet?
Let me think about that for a second. Not in the game itself, no. I think players have already found everything.
That's good to know. What about outside of the game or in any of your other games?
There's no secrets strictly related to IMSCARED in my other games aside from Collapse Collide, and I'm sure someone has already found that one. You haven't found Painting Lady in one of my games though. But, well, I'm pretty sure that none of you have played a day, so it's normal.
I'll probably try and play it during one of the stream. I'll probably try and play it during that stream I mentioned I plan to do. I'm going to play all your other games. Feel free to pop into the stream's chat whenever that happens if you want to, and feel free to pop into that stream's chat whenever it happens if you want to, and are free when it happens. Along with that Mirror Layers stream.
Oh, that'd be lovely. Although one single stream can't stand a chance against Mirror Layers. That game's huge.
Fair? Probably multiple streams for that one then. That would be a huge stream.
Some fools played Mirror Layers in one go. It didn't end well for them.
I might be able to do it in one stream though. I might be able to do it in one stream though. I did spend 8 hours in one stream to beat Bendy the Dark Revival when that came out, because I only had one night to beat it until I had to go out to London for a weekend for my birthday. Took a while, but I'd say it was worth doing it all in one stream.
We'll see then.
We will. Final question before the community questions is, what would you want to do for IMSCARED if you were able to do merch of it? I'm sure the answer is probably the whiteface pin Restorer has.
Whiteface pin is a must, as it's the worker card / VIP badge.
I do have my own worker card actually.
No way, can I see it? Also, Whiteface plush would be cool.
Sure, here you go. Whiteface is barely visible on the back behind the text. I did the design for the back myself.
This is awesome. I love it.
Thanks.
But shirts and pins aside, I always love the idea of having a small paper diorama of the various locations, which are the heart of the game for me.
That'd be very cool. Plus little figurines to display in those dioramas too.
That'd be cool too. Also, IMSCARED models do translate well as paper figurines.
The only real thing stopping them from happening is finding a good company to work with and make them. And that's very true. Since in-game they're like paper models.
Back when 2016 came out, a company reached out to me for making some goodies, but in the end we didn't do anything, as you might tell.
That's interesting. I assume you can't mention what the company's name was because of NDAs.
It's not much about NDAs, it's more about my memory failing me. I really don't remember.
The only merch company I can really think of that I think would be good for merch is Fangamer. They do a lot of merch for a lot of other games, like Undertale, which was also made in Game Maker, and quite a few others.
Such a missed opportunity though.
Fair.
Too bad.
I was always trying again with the console ports. I know Fangamer themselves has helped with console ports, or at least publishing physical releases. Remember they had physical Undertale releases and a collector's edition.
We'll see about that. It'd be great to have some merch this time around.
Definitely. Worst thing about reaching out to them, I assume, is that they just say no. So no harm in asking at some point.
Yeah, about the Undertale and Hollow Knight Fangamer releases.
Nice!
Those are really beautiful.
I have the collector's edition Undertale Heart Locket hung by my desk. The music box is a cool addition.
It's just that I don't have the same magnitude that games like Hollow Knight or Undertale has, and I don't feel like wasting their time with my request.
Gotta work up the courage to ask at some point. I'm sure they wouldn't see it as a waste. I think it'd fit right in. And as I said, worst that could happen is they don't see it or they just say no. And if they did say no, or until any other merch ever does happen, you can always still do the papercraft idea, because that is quite a good idea, and really simple to do since you just need to design papercraft files and then people would print them out and set them up.
Only time will tell, I suppose.
Yep. I can always try asking them if they'd be interested if you don't want to.
Yeah, that'd be nice of you, but don't worry. I'll do it when the ports will be ready.
Wait, sorry, we're getting sidetracked from the interview now, sorry. Okay, let's move on to community questions now. And okay, hopefully that goes well. Let's start with favourite pizza topping, since that one came up earlier. Asked by Astra from the IMSCARED Discord server.
Hey Astra, I was waiting for that one, and the answer is Pizza Quattro Formaggi. Which doesn't look very good in this photo, but I assure you that it's great.
Sounds interesting.
The topping is a mix of 4 different cheeses. You use mozzarella, gorgonzola, fontina, and parmigiano.
Good to know!
Jumping off my Italian shoes. Sorry.
Good to know! The next one is from the IMSCARED Discord server. They're asking what indie games are inspirations for you.
There's a lot of indie games that has been and still are big inspirations for me. Putting aside the games made by Terry Kavanagh, which you should try out, so go and play some Judith or VVVVVV or Don't Look Back. I love a lot of stuff and will mention just a few that come to mind when I think about inspiring games. Celeste, Undertale, Cry of Fear, Nun Massacre, Mondo Medicals, Air Pressure, No One Has to Die, Tower of Heaven. I could go on, but then the list would cram too much, I think. This is simply a list of games that have inspired me through the years, but there's so many gems that ask to be played.
I'll have to try and play some of those at some point I haven't heard of. Another question from them is, how did you get or make a lot of sounds for the game?
It depends on the sound. Some of them were borrowed from the internet, some were recorded, and others were made from scratch with sound editing softwares. Every sound from the original 2012 edition was recorded or created from scratch though, of that I'm sure. Whenever you need sounds and you can't record them yourself, check out freesound.org. It's an awesome community and you can find lots of sounds on it.
Sounds very useful.
If your question was more about how did you make that white face scream, then I'll just say that you can make some special sounds with the broken mic.
True. Low quality mics are great for that sort of thing.
No, not low quality. Broken.
That too. Broken headphones also make interesting sounds too.
They do.
Definitely. Next we have a question from my friend Verified Bumpkin in a server called FezCord. He asks, what do you think of all the fan art there is out there for I'm Scared?
I obviously love them. I found them to be flattering and some are incredible works of art. The things I make pale in comparison.
Yeah, it's always nice seeing people make stuff of your characters because they love them so much. And your art of them is also amazing.
Absolutely. With time I got used to IMSCARED fan arts, but it's always a joy when it happens. That's why I'm really liking all the new Restore fan arts. It's a new character and it's great to see so many interpretations of it.
Oh, definitely. Plus the few fan arts I've seen of Castle Kid are already cool too. I'm really proud of the stylized ref sheet I did of them.
Don't get me started on that. There's no kid fan art that I don't love. There's not many, but every one of them is incredible. The first one made by Alex, the one that you made, the one with him on the stairs.
He's an underrated character.
I think it's normal. Only people that found the test build secret had the chance to meet him.
Actually, speaking of that leads me on to the next question, which is from Indecent on the IMSCARED server, which is asking if Kid is only an Easter egg for the test build, or if we'll see and learn more about them in the future. This will probably be a spoilery question, so feel free to be as vague as you want.
I'll just say that he's not an Easter egg.
Interesting.
Also, hi Tamk.
They have a few other questions too. One being if Whiteface / her, and probably Restorer and Kid, have canon ages, and if they do, what those ages are. My only guess is that when... My only guess for ages is when the different builds released, but I doubt Restorer is 1 year old.
They don't. Whiteface is an entity made of data, just as a software it can't age.
True.
Also, Restore would tell them that it's rude to ask a lady her age, followed by a big laugh.
But I assume for Kid that, since their name is Kid, that they would be young, because kids are young, you know.
Kid is certainly shaped like a kid, I'd say.
He also enjoys piggyback rides like a kid. He likes sitting on people's shoulders. Another question from them is, if multiple people download I'm Scared, does that mean there's multiple Whitefaces on different computers? I mean, if the curse is dead as Restorer said, I guess there's 0 Whitefaces since he's been gone for ages. But still.
That's a tricky question, one that can't be answered without bringing up stuff. You could say that Whiteface is a different entity on every system it possesses, but I like to think that it's a curse being shared by players across time and systems. When it died on a system 6 years ago, that's the moment it died on a system today. Sooner or later, it will be dead on every machine. And that's when the update starts. I was writing a biblical wall of text before this one, but got too spoilerish or philosophical, so let's go with this instead.
Makes sense, and yeah, that's understandable. I assume we won't see anything of Whiteface or her in the future of I'm Scared since they are long gone.
That's why there won't be an I'm Scared 2.
Because Whiteface is what made it I'm Scared. Because he was the one that was scared.
It's its curse, yes.
Also, if there was an I'm Scared 2 that was called something like that, I'm Scared 2 is an obvious name.
I love fan suggestions. I'm Scared 2 is an obvious one. But there was also I'm Really Scared, which makes me giggle every time.
There's also I'm Not Scared!
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Next question is from Calipra, also in the I'm Scared Discord server, who asks what your favourite section of I'm Scared is, and contrastingly, what your least favourite section is.
Let's see, I'll cheat a bit and say that I really like the test build secret content, albeit being not in IMSCARED itself. If I have to choose one from the main game, then it would be the parlor section. As for my least favorite, the cake goes to the station because I love the in concept and aesthetics, but it's also the weaker part of the game.
Fair, very fair. The test build secret area is also one of my favourites. I love the vivid visuals. Part of me wishes the full game was like that.
I can see why is that. I love it too.
Yeah. It's nice that the Wishing Well archive area has the Dithered effect. I like to open up IMSCARED and just chill there.
It's a calm place.
Certainly. The next question comes from you/ProCubed on Reddit, and they ask what your thoughts are on remakes and mods of the game.
I really love the idea of the community enjoying my work to the point of editing or reimagining them. It's a really interesting thing, and I would play the hell out of them. Scare me, you fools. I can't wait anymore.
Yeah, that's definitely fun. You/ProCubed themselves is actually working on a VR chat remake of IMSCARED, if I remember correctly.
Oh, that sounds really promising, and I can't wait to try it out.
It'll be fun to see. Me too. It'll be fun to see if, along with that, if they make avatars of her and Whiteface. Those will be fun to have. Speaking of VR, the Moomiest Man from Redcord, the server I'm in, asks if you will ever revisit the idea of an official IMSCARED VR port, since you're doing console ports and mobile ports now.
A VR edition is something I've always wanted to make, so yes, my only enemy is time.
And compatibility between VR and Game Maker.
The game needs to be remade from scratch again for VR port to happen, so I won't use my beloved Game Maker.
Probably Unity. I think there was a mention of a fine IMSCARED VR port made in Unity in the IMSCARED server a bit ago, actually.
That one looks promising too. I was invited on their server to try it out, but right now I can't really give it time. It's a shame.
Maybe when you're free you can try it. Things are lucky, you could always just work with them for the official IMSCARED VR port if you like.
I mean, why not? Even if I'm clinging with IMSCARED and I like to develop it alone, some help with a project that big could be good. But who knows? Only time will tell.
Yep. I'd certainly play it again in VR. Anyway, the next two questions are from Mega from a Discord called Untold Comics. Their first question is, was the ending always planned to be what it is now?
It wasn't. I have to make my solo games coming up with stuff while I'm making them, so no. The idea behind the 2012 version was not meant to end the way it did in 2016. If you're talking about the new content, then again, no. IMSCARED has ended in 2016, and that is why the new content directly refers to this event. If you think about it, lore-wise, the game was forcefully dug out from its grave.
And their second one is, what is the scariest gaming experience you've ever had?
As for the scariest gaming experience I've had, the cake probably goes to Nun Massacre. I like playing my horror games slowly, tackling them as if I were there. So I played it with kinda a permadeath rule, and that is I have only one try per day. Beating that nun was the most nerve-wracking experience I've had with a horror game.
That makes sense. And that sounds like a really fun challenge for playing a game. I have to try doing a challenge like that at some point.
Try out Nun Massacre. Your heart won't thank me.
Maybe I'll include it as a bonus during the stream playing some of your games. Anyway, the next question is from Damien from a server called Jogcord. And they ask if you could go back in time and do anything over again. Is there anything you would change?
Aside from working sooner on my personal issues and shortcomings, I think not. I would have loved to enjoy my 20s more than what I did, but that would have meant not having developed my beloved games.
Fair? And stuff would be very different if you didn't make them. You'd be making pizzas and horror videos on YouTube!
Yeah.
Yeah. The next question is from someone named Happy in a game dev Discord server I'm entitled Green Glow Games. And they ask, out of the console port plans, are there any consoles you'd think you'd have trouble porting IMSCARED to?
Whoever refuses my game, I suppose. The plan is to port IMSCARED on every console and device.
Makes sense. Hopefully no one rejects it. Only time will tell what happens. The next question comes from YouTuber 6 Did For Me, and they ask, what is the purpose/meaning of the world going black at the road? And they also ask if they can have an IMSCARED mobile review copy when it's done. But I assume that will not be a good thing, because it's probably best to buy it again anyway to help make sure it's a profitable entry.
Hey Six, long time no see. The world going black in the street section is just the game glitching out. There's no real meaning behind it. It serves the purpose of startling the player in an unconventional way, and judging by the fact that everyone thinks that's a real bug, I can tell that it works. Also yeah, When the new game will be ready, you'll be old and hopefully full of money. For the time being, stick with us and keep enjoying the upcoming free content.
Yeah, I know I'll be enjoying the content. And yeah, I'd say that definitely worked. Fun fact, when I replayed IMSCARED 2012 recently, a very spooky bug happened there where I got stuck and I literally couldn't do anything and I had to shut down my whole computer there. And when I went to shut down the screen, well... Okay, I was just able to do it via, tab and using these, but... Jesus, this is terrifying. This is fucking terrifying. Whiteface, stop trying to open my door! Whiteface, please!
That's because 2012 is malicious. Beware.
I can tell. It was scary. And the game had opened 52 images of Whiteface in my browser. The noise stopped until I got to the login page and it started again, so I was genuinely scared when that happened because, I thought it was over and then it just wasn't. Whiteface has really evolved over the years, between 2012 and 2016. He learned to smell the roses and be less malicious.
Yeah, I've seen the glitch on Twitter. It probably happened due to the game opening up tabs and such, but who knows? The game's evil, after all.
Either way, it was really scary, but it's a fun thing to call... Either way, it was really scary at the time, and it's a fun thing to talk about. Really felt haunted at the time.
Hey, how many questions are left? I'm sorry, but I haven't eaten a thing all day, and I also really need to get back working.
6. I can remove you a few, though, if you want. Or you can go get something to eat and we can do the final questions later.
I'm pretty sure that question counter could go up in that time. Let's do it now.
Okay, there's only one more for the community questions before going to the closing questions. So, I think those questions are relatively simple. The last community question comes from my dog Brandy, and she asks, translated from dog language of course, is the IMSCARED Discord server canon? Are we all canon? Am I canon? Couldn't help it, I wanted to include a light-hearted joke question.
Hey Brandy, weef woof woof woof. Yes, you all are. You all be.
Now, on to the closing questions to end out the interview. Starting simply, how do you feel knowing so many people love and enjoy your games?
It's a great feeling, really. I do hope to make some more games capable of reaching out to people like IMSCARED did.
Hopefully. Only time will tell, though. What are your hopes for the future?
I really hope to make a profitable entry.
Very fair. Do you have any hints or clues about what's next for IMSCARED other than the ports, and as big a way to not spoil anything, or even as a riddle for people to ponder over while they wait?
I think you all should start searching for a specific TikTok account.
Sounds like a plan. And not the type of response I was expecting, but that's certainly interesting. Final 2 questions now. Is there anything you want to share from the development of IMSCARED that hasn't been brought up yet, or something you want to say/share to the community?
There's not much really. It was and it is a fun process. I'll also take the occasion to thank everyone for their incredible support through the years. It's been awesome.
I can definitely agree. And I'm sure the support will keep coming for the years to come. Here's the final question. Do you have any tips for aspiring game devs out there? Or any closing words for the viewers watching/listening/reading this?
My advice is start small. I know that you really want to make your big dream project. I've been there too. But really the best way to tackle game dev is by starting small. Join game jams, make small projects to understand your work environment, and get feedback from players. This way you can grow up and power up your aim instead of working a lot of time on something that could have issues caused by inexperience. Take your time. Oh, and play Mega Man, it's good.
That's good tips. I know I'll definitely use them. And I agree. My final message to the viewers is to go purchase IMSCARED and Mirrorless on Steam. And also A-Day.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Now I'll move back to my cave and cook some.
Yep. Don't want you to starve.
Zona safari coi Pokémon rari. Si va nel pantano e non se ne esce più. Hey, c'è Quagsire e Croagunk mai. Bibarelle V per maglia ma non entra più. Questo qui ci dice così. Ma non è vero, abbiamo controllato alla zona safari, ci sono già stato e so già che il fango è il re. Ma i Pokémon non entrano, che infami. Catturiamo questi, ne abbiamo solo 20. Ma che bel giorno a sto safari, io non catturo neanche i pesci lessi, prendo sempre gli stessi. Ma che bel giorno a sto safari, io non rientrerò mai.
You know, after recently looking back through the history of the IMSCARED stuff, there's mention of a V2 around 2013, around the time of the VR versions campaign, and much before Workshop Edition, and presumably Bury Her. So I'm curious, was there ever any progress on that version of IMSCARED, or was that just planned but never really got worked on until Bury Her became Workshop Edition?
V2 was just a working title for the stuff I had in mind back then. Most of that became Workshop and the rest got scrapped.
I'd assumed so. Wonder if any of that scrap stuff will be reused for anything else. Part of me wants to try and see how a remake attempting to recreate that lost version would be. Could make an interesting YouTube series like Sika's own IMSCARED ARG that he's been doing.
That would be great, actually.
I'd definitely do that at some point if I was skilled with Game Maker. I'd probably try and get it to at least half work in VR, even if it's old VR and not the modern controllers visible in game VR. But that'd be hard. If I ever really do it as a series with your permission, though, of course, since IMSCARED is your thing. Would be cool either way, though, I think. Anyway, how's your week been so far?
It was okay. I'm overwhelmed as always, but the work's doing well. Hope it was okay for you too.
If you ever feel too overwhelmed, be sure to take breaks. Always good to take time off if you're too overwhelmed. I'm glad stuff's been going well, though. Mine's been very mixed so far, but hey, we're only halfway through the week, so stuff can certainly get better. Anyway, next question is from Vivo from the IMSCARED Discord server. Will Remnants have console ports at launch or post-launch, or will it be PC exclusive? And do you have a planned price range for it?
It will probably be on PC only at launch. As for the price, it's far too soon to decide on it.
Okay. And I'm curious, after IMSCARED's ports and Remnants release, are there any of your other games from the past that you'd want to revisit and expand upon? I remember you mentioned an expanded calm time before on the Discord, so that would be interesting.
The games I'd love to invest my time in are Memorial Pillage, Lala is Bound, and Quiet Manor.
I can see why. Those seem like they'll expand into great games. Next question is from the memeiest man, aka Larry. What are your thoughts on the current landscape of indie horror?
The indie horror landscape is full of beautiful, creative, and scary games. In the last 12 years, the scene has vastly changed and improved. 20 years old Ivan would be envying us all right now. He had the time, but not the games. Silly him. Anyway, yeah, every young horror game lover should be more than happy with this landscape. So much stuff to play, so many horrors to uncover.
That's quite true. And it's never been easier for anyone to try and dive into making their own game. So a lot of stuff can be made now. Anyway, next up, I've seen some people theorise on Whiteface and Her being some manifestation of yourself before, so I'm curious. Have you ever put little nods to yourself into your games like that?
I suppose that most creators tend to put a piece of themselves in what they make. Same goes for me, since a lot of my games show traits of myself since I started making them. Quando 4APO talks about my inner fight between making things for pure enjoyment versus making things because of duty. Some I'm scared areas are recollections from my childhood, Lala is Bound is shaped around my fear of contracts, and the list goes on. If you're specifically referring to self-inserts though, aside from Time Lover, which was just a game jam depicting me and my ex-girlfriend in a silly situation, I never put me and my personal life into any of my games. Oh right, there's Phil and nothing else, but it's kind of a stretch. I had to move out a lot of times in my youth, and after yet another move, me and my family were particularly stressed out, so I put my anger and anxieties on that game with a kid Ivan as a protagonist. Needless to say, nothing else's story doesn't have anything to do with my life. I love my family, and I'm pretty sure they love me too. I'm lucky.
Understandable. And here's one from Sioku, also from the IMSCARED server. Since you've worked on multiple games with other devs alongside games on your own, which do you prefer? Making games on your own, or working with others?
I mostly prefer making games on my own. Making jam games with my friends is the best thing ever, mind you. When it comes to full games though, things get harder for me. I'm not good at dealing with other people's expectations, it scares me a lot. I often twist my original ideas to meet what I think they would expect from me, ending up not liking those myself in the process. Also, my workflow is very unprofessional. When I make games, I start with a rough idea and then proceed to develop it following the inspiration of the moment, changing a lot of stuff in the process. It's okay if I'm working alone, but it's a detrimental approach for teamwork. There's still a lot of work to be done on myself.
You know what? That's fair, that makes a lot of sense. They also asked, have you ever scared yourself while testing a game? And if so, how?
Oh, yes! First time it happened was with the gramophone maze in IMSCARED. I developed that part blind without testing it, so when I played it for the first time, it was like playing a game I hadn't made. I remember that blue crossroad, the pitch dark in front of me, the gramophone's music, and the eerie cry of her approaching. I felt scared and thought it came out great. And then I put in those silly puppets that ruined everything. I managed to scare myself with mirror layers too. I kept forgetting that I put hanged corpses in Enigma 2, so whenever I opened the door and found one of them in front of me, I would jump.
You know what? That sounds pretty fun, actually. I love being scared by my own stuff. And this is another one from Vivo. Will the store ever interact with more of the community as a whole outside of the game, other than TikTok vids? A couple of people have joked about having to do a Q&A on which would be fun, and let us get to know a bit more. You don't have to answer this, I'm sure you're still planning on how stuff will go, or to get too spoilery.
Having you played the aforementioned Nothing Else, moving to a new home is exhausting and time-consuming. No.
Ah, nice. Thanks for the answers. Again, sorry for taking the time out of your day, but thanks.
Don't worry, it was easier this way and I had fun.